the C-5. And I hope everybody that is in our families will really enjoy your view of the C-5 tonight. Tonight we're going to try to cover the entire outside, give everybody a good look at what the C-5 consists of, what our job consists of, to, you know, kind of let everybody back home know what we do for a living now. Okay, the view that you're getting right now is the nose of the aircraft. Believe it or not, we have a lot of things that we work on in this part of the airplane. In the nose part of the plane, we've got the APS-133 color with the radar, which we work on. We also have it kind of helps for navigation as far as landing the plane. We have the glide slope and localizer also contained. It's really, you can't really tell exactly the portion of the plane that contains all this, but if you'll kind of notice, there is a break where all those lines are right there, where you see those lines running along the nose. That is the nose radome. That is the portion which contains all of our systems that we have to deal with when we work on the plane. Down here we have, well, you can notice what that is. That is the nose landing gear with the landing light there. And this gives you a good forward view of the size of the plane. There's the left wing, engines 1 and 2, right wing, engines 3 and 4. Okay, we're going to go ahead and kind of walk around to the side and give everybody a complete view of what the plane consists of. While we're going around, both Dan and I will do, you know, the documentary conversations along the plane. Dan is now proceeding to the front of the aircraft to kind of give you a heads up on some kind of, give you an idea about how big this plane is. It's hard to tell by just looking, but notice that the tires come up well above Dan's waist, and Dan's holding the plane up there. There you're looking at the VHF #1 antenna. Very large plane, approximately 6 stories in as tall, and that's from the ground to the top of the tail. It's 34 feet from the ground to the top of that section there. Okay, we're going to go ahead and walk around now to give everybody a good view of everything. Hey, now what we're going to do here is kind of give you a look at inside the gear pod. This is the nose landing gear, which I just gave you a good view of. And this is, you know, very large area. You wouldn't think that it's this big. Now, up there is where the gear retractors are. See if I can get up in there. Now, those gears are very, very large gears, and it takes quite a bit just to go through the cycle of getting this gear retracted. When we come out to the planes, we have to do, you know, a basic look over of all the aircraft, and we have to make sure everything is in safety limits so that we can ensure that it's going to be a smooth and easy flight. This is a unique part of our plane. This plane has the capability of fighting fires right here in this nose pod. As soon as you hit this button, any of these buttons that are lit, when this light announces that there is a fire in this section, all you have to do is pull that pin, that red guarded switch, hit the button, and it extinguishes a halogen type substance that kind of, you know, covers up the fire. It's a well thought and well engineered aircraft once you know, really get to understand about it. Okay, we'll go right around here. Okay, now what we're going to do now is we're going to go around and give you a view of the front. Okay, now this pin here is a very important part of the nose landing gear. Also, if not extracted from this slot, can be very dangerous. As you see, removed before flight. Some some people were out here doing a check on this and apparently forgot to remove that pin. And these gears that I was previously showing were putting all the pressure it could to try to extract the nose landing gear. Now, with the resistance of that pin still in there, there were two airmen standing here when this was during the process of this, and these gears sheared, and one of the airmen were struck in the side of the head, nearly killing him. But luckily no one was, fatally hurt. But I'd say they did learn their lesson, because these are very large gears and they have a lot of pressure behind them because it takes a lot to get this up. This gives you kind of a side portion of the plane. This here is the crew entry door. Of course you can see the U.S. Air Force symbols, and this is the serial number that's given to the plane. Of course this is the 60th air wing. Like I said, this is the crew entry door. This is relatively a very long ladder. I know it's kind of hard to see, but that kind of gives you a good size right there with Dan standing beside it. Gives you an idea about how big it is. Okay, right there, those two things sticking out of the fuselage of the aircraft is the angle of attack sensors. What they do is these are free moving, and the wind that goes across them moves them either up or down when the plane is either going into a dive or pulling up, and it gives the crew an idea of what kind of dive at the angle they're going down or up. And these here, what they call the pitot tubes, this gives information on airspeed and how fast the plane is going. Okay, here you're getting kind of a view of the equipment that is mandatory for working on a C-5. This piece of equipment here is our halogen fire extinguishers. We must have two of these in the circle of safety to do any kind of maintenance work on the plane. We must have one which is located up here at the nose, right there. And then we must also, like I was just showing you, have one beside the power card. This is a diesel generator that supplies the aircraft with all of its power. We have another means of power for the aircraft that we'll show you momentarily, but as far as this goes, this can be taken, just about anywhere. That way you don't have to waste systems on APUs. Okay, well, I'm going to give you kind of a shot of the wing now, a wide view. Now, right there, Dan is standing under engine number 1. Now, this gives you kind of a comparison of size, too, with Dan standing there. This engine in diameter is 8 foot 4 inches, so somebody can easily get up in this engine and do all its working. Even with Dan jumping, white man can't jump, so Dan can't touch that part. But these are very, very powerful engines. Now we're going to go out to the tip of the wing here. As you can see, it's still way off the ground. It's not even barely within reach. The section that Dan's standing under there is a section that we have to be kind of careful with, because up at the bottom of this, what is used for a counterweight is depleted uranium. Now, we have a maximum time of 5 minutes to stand anywhere around that uranium, because it can get toxic after being in front of it too long. Okay, now what I'm showing you now is the slats section of the wing. Now, these can be extended or retracted depending on what mode that you've selected in the flight deck, which will be shown later on. When these are extended, usually the flaps are also extended. This gives the wing more area, which is good for takeoff in such a big plane, because it gives more lift to the aircraft. Okay, here likewise is number 2 engine. Right now these engines are windmilling, and that's mainly, to kind of give you an idea about what we're doing. While this is Tony, and while I'm taping, I'm having to also talk into a mic because of such high winds out here. The winds out here gust up to 40 miles an hour at times, and without the mic, you probably wouldn't be able to hear a thing I'm saying. So with a 40-mile-an-hour wind, it's easy to see why these engines are windmilling like this, and they require a lot of maintenance due to that fact. This section that I'm showing you now is I'm standing underneath the wing, and I'm going to try to give you a shot of the flaps. Now, earlier I told you that when they usually extend the slats, they also extend the flaps, which also gives the wing more area for lift, and really does a great job because these things load down super heavy, and it sure does take a lot of power to get these things off the ground. As a matter of fact, a C-5 has to put on minimum fuel capacity for getting off the ground because of the super weight, because this thing holds more than you can believe as far as gallons of gas. Uses up to about 1,000 gallons per minute, so that kind of gives you an idea about what kind of fuel we're talking. And when these things go airborne, they have to do aerial refueling. So like I said, there's you another shot of the wing. Shows you the engines there from a side view. Okay, walking around, just give you some more of the plane. Now the C-5 holds about now the C-5 holds about a total of 50,000 gallons of fuel. Now that'll go into comparison, to just give you an idea about what I'm talking about. C-5 holds enough fuel for the average American car to make about 130 round trips from LA to New York, or 31 trips around the world. And that's nothing to just laugh at. Now these engines, the name for these engines are TF39s. Each one of these engines gulp approximately 42 tons of air per minute. That's a lot of air. Now, and the total engine power, now that's, you're looking at some serious power, because you can see in itself it takes a lot to get this plane off the ground. The total power of the C-5 Galaxy equals that produced by about 800 average automobiles. Now you're talking some serious horsepower, but like I said, it does take a lot, especially when these things are loaded down for missions, to get it off the ground and get it off the ground safely.
Now, this is Dan speaking here. What Tony is holding on to is the UHF antenna, and that is our communication radio, one of our communication radios. What he is now pointing at is well, he was pointing at that long strip there is the marker beacon. That's for tell the air crew, or the pilot and all, how far away from the runway they are as in distance of feet. What he has been pointing at was the TACAN. We have two TACAN antennas that are flush mounted, which is for distance from stations across the country. And there's also an IFF that is flush with the aircraft. Over here is our other UHF antenna for our communication systems. What we have here is the main landing gear. There is 4 of these sets, as you can see. There is one right directly behind it, and there's 2 on the other side. What Tony is now pointing out are small little, well, which really aren't that small, but they are rollers that help guide the main landing gear. What happens, it twists around and goes up into a guide rail. We'll go in and look at the guide rail. This is the guide rail I was talking about. You see how Tony's hand goes up into it, and it goes all the way back down in that rail. Those gears do, and the whole thing twists, and amazingly it fits into this area. I mean, it's not a very small area, but it's pretty amazing how they get this whole thing to fit. A basic overview of the size comparison. There's Tony right there on the landing gear, and right to his right is to his left, or is it his right? I always have problems with my rights and left. So that is one of the gears that go up and down, spin, which make it retract and come up and down, because this aircraft can be lowered and raised. As you can see, that shiny shaft, it can completely disappear, so this whole aircraft is like 4 inches above the ground. Looking up into the gear area, you can see there's a lot of hydraulic hoses and pretty heavy metal that is very strong, that can withstand all the pressure. All the hydraulic hoses are very important hoses, and there's a lot of pressure running through them. That's what makes our aircraft land safely. If any of those hoses are broken, it can cause a catastrophe. Although I don't believe there has ever been an aircraft that had a problem with landing gear, other than one that had landed with no landing gear, and the pilots did such a great job at landing that they did a belly and they slowed it right down. I mean, the front nose landing gear, that's what it was. The front nose landing gear didn't come down, so they did a complete touchdown and barely even touched that VHF antenna that we showed out earlier. This gentleman here is running up the APU, not the APU, the power cart, I mean. We'll be getting to the APUs. He's running up the power cart for power to the aircraft. The tire here has obviously seen its better days. This tire has had many landings, which proves the bald spots. Actually, I'm not too sure on how many landings this tire can get, but I know it's under 12. That's just a little preview. Well, that's the aftermarket of what happens to the tires. Right next to it is a brand new tire, and you can tell that the grooves are a lot better shape than that one. Covers it for our main landing gears. We really don't work on it, so we don't know as much information as we would like to know. What Tony and I are trying to do, he might have mentioned this earlier, is that we're trying to get to know as much of this aircraft as possible for later on we can get our FCC and FAA licenses, so we can work on these on commercial aircraft and get paid much more. Side of the aircraft, what you see up there is our luggage rack. That's where they put all the luggage. No, that is a joke. This is our ADS Sense antenna. Well, it's basically an AM radio that they use for distance and other. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Tony just gave me a little quick briefing in the ear. It's an automatic direction finder. I knew that, really. I did. I was testing. And right behind it is our VHF2 antenna. There's only two of those antennas. They're line of sight, which makes one on bottom and one on top. Our UHF is also line of sight. There's other antennas that are farther up on the aircraft. This is just after the wings. They're line of sight, as I was saying, which means that if there's an airplane above them, they'd switch to the top antenna. And if there's an airplane below them, or station below them, they can switch to the bottom antenna and speak more clearly. We'll go back here and get a view. We also see right below is our 7 left door, which is one of the doors that the troops jump out of when they're parachuting. We'll go on back here, and here is our tail. One of Tony and I's favorite spots. We'll be climbing up in there, and Tony will be up on top, I believe. It will either be Tony or I. And you'll see the very leading edge. The very leading edge right there is the HF antenna. It's a very long antenna, and it has to be because for the antenna to work at 2 hertz, which is one of its lowest frequency, the antenna has to be 160 meters long, which makes it very long. What we have is it's much shorter than that. What it does, though, is we have couplers that electrically make it seem like 160 meters. What we have up here, hopefully if I can get it before the battery dies on me, is a VHF nav antenna. It's right above the flag, as I'm trying to show you, and that's the ARN 147 VHF that we have there. There's one on the other side of the rudder system. The rudders are actually the flap-like things you see on the end. And up on top is the elevator. You can see that little area. It looks like, try to get another close-up of it. The whole thing right up there moves up and down. So this whole elevator area can adjust the angle of the aircraft. And back there, right the very end tip, is right where we have C-dipper. C-dipper is, it gets deployed, for an A model at least, it gets deployed and it floats to the ground. It has a beacon. That's where all the recordings for all the systems are. So say it's the black box, but
our HF couplers. This helps. Couplers, whatever. CU 2275, and these help our radio communications. I'd explain it more, but you might get confused. Alright, walking down the T-tail. We're not going up the T-tail yet.
Watch your feet.
Yeah, see. We're going to go up the T-tail though. We probably won't be able to film all the way up the T-tail because it's dark. I don't even know if this will turn out. So.
Since I have one of the body strands here, I am now pointing this directly up into the T-tail. So we're headed up that way now, so just give me a second. We are headed directly up that ladder. We're talking straight up, probably 6 stories up in the air. We're going to go up to the top of the T-tail and give you a view of what it looks like on the top of the C-5, very top. Headed into is the top, so we'll open the hatch in just a second. I'm opening the hatch. Okay. Oh, watch it, buddy. Oh, I'm breaking everything. Okay. Are you ready for the finale? I'm coming out the top. This is rough. This is a very tight spot. Hold on. Whoa, here we are. Yeah. Okay. We are right. I'm standing right there. Okay. Hold on just a second, please. This is a front view of the flat line. Want to get everything in here for everybody to see.
It's a mountain over here, dude.
Travis Air Force Base here. Everything waving in my face.
Ah!
Hey, Tammy.
How you doing?
Nice close up.
Over there is our wash rack. Wash our airplanes here.
That is specific. I'll get a zoom shot there. That entire hangar is just for washing our airplane. Millions of dollars just for washing it.
Is it mountain school, dude?
Big car wash.
Oh, that Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks.
Now this is the average size of the airplane is our T-tail.
The width of this tail, which is right here, is it lacks about 10 feet, being the size of a DC-8, which is an airline's plane. There's a plane we were just on. We swapped planes because we couldn't put power on. This is Travis Air Force Base. Kind of small for such a big plane, but hey, that's where they put you. That's where they put you. Real beautiful. Planes that are the runway. Got a couple sitting over there. Got one. Place to work. Hope you guys enjoy this. Here, they're loading one up for a mission probably. That's what the C-5 looks like with its mouth open. It's saying off.
You're ready to put the ramp down, I think.
And you can see the relative size of the C-5 compared to that little puny fella standing down there on the ground. Huge plane. $238 million worth. And we're responsible for it. Isn't that wonderful? For being our age.
It's kind of smoggy out today, too.
Yep. This is the climb that we just made up. We're going back down now. These are my shiny boots. You can get an idea. That's Tammy closing the hatch. You can kind of get an idea of the height this thing is. That's a long ways down. It's kind of a small hole too. Okay, we're going to go down now. We'll turn it back on when we get downstairs. See ya. Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Now Tammy is exiting from the T-tail out there. She's coming down. If you look right here, this international orange colored box, this is our CVR, cockpit voice recorder. This more or less just takes all the conversations and everything from the flight deck and all information that this needs. In case of a crash or anything, they can locate the plane and kind of figure out what they can find the cause of what happened. Yeah, like Tammy said, most people just know this is the black box, but as you can see, it's not black. We're going to go back through that little hole we just came through. That's why you use your head lockers.
There was our battery died after I was showing you the T-tail, and we went to a clip of a previous tape of Tammy's, which is the girl that was in our video. She went to tech school with Tony and I, and we decided to tape that on because we couldn't get a good shot of the T-tail. Our battery went dead, and we've been inside ever since. So what you have there was basically our shots of the flight line from the T-tail. You can also see the front end of the aircraft being opened up. That's how they load and unload. I believe it is the only aircraft other than the Russian one. Ours opens ours opens in 25 seconds, where theirs opens in 11 minutes. Yeah, that's why we win. What else is there on there? I'm trying to think, but you got a couple shots of the wash racks and our hangars. I believe you got a good close-up of a hangar that was, you can see it held the C-5. These things were that large. So now what we'll do, we'll take a good shot of the cargo compartment and we'll explain from there. Other information that I wanted to give to you before we go on to the cargo compartment, but here's a basic shot of it as I explain. The length of our aircraft, the total length, is 247.8 feet. The height of it is 65.1 feet. That's it back at the T-tail. You can see the height previously on the video. And the wingspan from one tip to other tip is 222.8 feet. Also wanted to mention something that I had mentioned earlier about the HF radio. I said 2 hertz, or maybe even I said 2 kilohertz. The bottom frequency for the HF radio is 2 megahertz. That's 2 megahertz, I said. So now, we'll start explaining about the cargo compartment. Here's where they carry all their stuff, and if anybody was watching CNN when they were showing these aircrafts, there was a fire truck full of water that came up inside. I believe Tony is now showing you the skid pad he was. That's what keeps things from sliding around in here. But there's also other things we'll be getting to in a minute. The length of the cargo compartment, including the ramps, is 144.6 feet. The height of it is 13.5 feet. And the width is 19 foot even. It's a pretty large area, as you can tell. And the total volume, including the ramps, is 34,734 cubic feet. It's a lot of cubic feet. And in that, I can probably show you, explain some more information. Little tidbits, we call them. Our tidbits basically are, this thing can haul 277,263 cans of your favorite beverage, pop, soda, cans of Coke, 700, I'll do this one more time, 752,000 hockey pucks, 328,301,674 aspirins. That's them little buggers. If you ever put all those in there, everybody out here would probably kill you because they would have to pull them out from every crack and crevice. And 100 Volkswagens of the Beetle model. That's a lot of bugs to be in here. It's the only bugs that we would care to be in here. The cargo compartment is big enough for an 8-lane bowling alley. The cargo compartment is longer than the Wright brothers' first flight. Trying to think of anything more. If Tony will pan up a little bit and see the wires up on the top, you can see all these wires as they're run. These are everything that included on the aircraft. The C-5 contains over 103 miles of wire, 4 miles of tubing, which are also in the little bit of that shot, and 5 miles of cable control. You might not be able to see all those cables that are in between, but that's what they actually run the cables all the way back, and up like to the T-tail where it's switched over to hydraulics. The cables basically turn on and off a hydraulic switch and moves the rudders, the elevator, the flaps and slats. That's basically how it is ran. It's pretty amazing. I thought the whole thing was ran electrically. So this is the entire cargo compartment. If Tony has anything to say, I'll hand over the mic to him, and I'm going to walk down to the other end for this perspective of how large this is. I'll go down and we'll play near and far like Grover on Sesame Street.
Okay, now, you can see Dan running down there. And you've got to understand, hey, this thing is a long ways down there. I'm standing at the very front of the cargo area, and Dan is all the way at the other end. Now, it may not look that far on camera, and it may, not appear that way in a picture, but I'm telling you what, people, there's a lot of room here. It can carry a lot of people. Dan was telling you earlier about a few things that with the cubic feet people have figured out so they can, kind of give people who don't know much about the plane a kind of an idea of the size and the area that this thing has for cargo. It's unbelievable, and believe me, I have seen this thing filled to the top with cargo, and it's amazing to me how the thing even gets off the ground. But with the technology we've got today, it seems to do it, and do it in a very easy fashion. Has no problem whatsoever. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go across the back there, and there's some pallets. We'll get a better view of them as we go back stairs towards the back there, but these things roll up on some rollers. These little strips here turn over, and they have roller bearings on the bottom of them. And what they do is they put these skids on the bearings, and they can roll it right up here and put them on the attachment points. And it just makes like they just roll it up on here, and there's attachment points. They just strap it to it, and they're done. I mean, it makes it so easy to load and unload this plane. Okay, we're going to walk on back through here, get a few other shots of some different things, and explain what we're doing as we go along. What I'm about to attempt here is we're going to adjust the lighting in the cargo compartment and kind of give you an idea of the different lighting features that the cargo compartment holds. Okay, go ahead, Dan, and adjust the lighting for us. Now I'm going to swing around here and kind of give you an idea about what's going on. Now, all we have present in the cargo area right now is red lights. I know it's kind of hard to see, but these lights are used for operational purposes. A lot of times, believe it or not, they have this whole cargo compartment filled up with troops, and they use this lighting for when, the doors are opened. It's harder to spot, this red light coming through the air than it would be if you had a, real bright white light just, gleaming up there. It'd be a lot easier to spot. So this is the lighting that they use for jumps. They use them for mission detent where they unload cargo and then they're gone, just to help the people out. Now we're going to give a little bit of light on the subject. So there we go. Merry Christmas. You got a Christmas tree. Alright, we're going to head and going to walk down the area and just kind of give you a little brief summary of a lot of the things that are contained within the cargo area.
It's back to me taping and talking again. What Tony has in his hand now is the U94 connector, which is what we plug our headsets into, which at the current time I'm talking into as a microphone, one of our rigs that we can do. Up above, we'll follow the cord up. This is the trolley cord, left-hand trolley cord for the AIC-18 interphone system. And this cord extends all the way down the aircraft for when they want to talk in different places, obviously. It runs all the way down the length of the aircraft. And this whole cord is connected through our main box, which our main control box for the interphone system, which is right there. I'm panning in on. It's has connections so you can listen to pretty much all the radios. Some spots are eliminated from speaking on the radios and using specific parts, but all of them are there. we'll try to get a little bit of a close-up on this one. Here is the interphone box I was saying. You might be able to read up on top. It says like the different radios: UHF2, UHF1, HF2, HF1. And right above it is a little sign indicating that this is the interphone. Some people have a hard time finding it. What Loftus is doing now is he is on the system himself, and we'll pan back and we'll get a shot of him using the interphone system. This is for intercommunications throughout the aircraft. He is able to talk to every spot, pilot, up in the troop compartment, everywhere. Actually, it's a handy thing. And there's also a cord that is extended outside the aircraft. Goes all the way down. You can see that little black cord running down, just hanging out the door. That is 175 feet long, so it can go all the way across, well, pretty much the length of the aircraft and plus, you know. And the line that he is on now is 150 feet long. That is the trolley cord that I was mentioning earlier. What we're going to do now is we'll swing around and we'll get more shots of the cargo compartment, what it consists of. Instead, real quick, we're going to go through something little Tony wanted to go through. This is a flight suit, place to hide a pen. Robinson, this is Tony's friend. Do you recognize this pen? I'm trying to get it into focus here, and I'm not able to. You recognize that pen? I think you do. On our suits, we have a lot of places that we can put a lot of items. We use these suits for basically not getting dirty. They're too much of a nice suit to be wasted, so... And in fact, Tony and I are the only two that I'm aware of that has the blue suits out in the aircraft. And make us well known and point us out. You know, the finer ones wanted to be more distinguished. The other ones that they have out here are green and ugly. Into more of the cargo compartment. This is the chains that hold down the cargo that they carry within the cargo compartment. And the chains are quite long and heavy. For instance, as you can read there, chain capacity is 10,000 pounds capacity. You can see it right there. That's a lot. There's another one on the exact opposite side. This is on the right side. There's one on the left side. As we travel down, there's also more places for chains. These are locks. My father probably recognized them, or actually many people probably recognize them, used on tractor trailers. As I was saying earlier, these are heavier chains for heavier cargo. Look at the weight that they can carry. This is just the capacity. This is the bare weight for this aircraft. 25,000 pounds, and that's just for the chains. Imagine all the others. And there is 2 other chain storage places on the other side. What we have right here is part of another system that locks down the cargo. As Tony operates that, he'll operate up and down. You see how the handle moves. And we'll try to find the spot down here that you can see that moving. And what that does is locks in the cargo compartment. It reaches out and grabs it and pulls it right back in. You can see this aircraft was pretty much made up to look pretty nice. Someone did a good job on this aircraft. That's why we were taping on this one. It's a relatively nice aircraft. Here on the aft left part of the cargo compartment is our Kara RTs, the PN232 RTs. These are the only 2 RTs that are basically in the wrong place. Engineers put them back here. We're not too sure why. All the rest are up in another spot, or almost all of them are up in another spot. We'll get to that place later. What we have done is walk down the length of the aircraft, cutting out much video that's just basic other stuff that we really don't get into. But you see there's a lot of panels that are removable, and there's many important things behind them. ATM pumps, hydraulic servicing. There's most of these are hydraulics, places where they can get into storage and stuff. What we have here are bags of stuff that we wish that weren't on this aircraft for this video, but since they are, we'll show them. This is the stuff that they're going to be using up in the troop compartment where we will be going later. It's blankets, pillows, etc. Put them in plastic bags that look so nice. Now onto how this cargo was rolled in here. As you see there, these are the 2 stops. they're in place. We chose this aircraft for this also. Here is a plate. We rarely get these in aircrafts because they're usually taken out. This plate here is on rollers. You can see Tony rolling it back and forth. These rollers are these right here, and they're able to roll in and out of the aircraft, and they put them on these big plates and they roll. These are being held down by that. This is being held down by that detent thing that I showed earlier. Tony is showing you right where it is. You can unlock it, just as simple as that, and roll it around. Actually, this one's probably stuck with more equipment holding it. But this is how they roll in and out cargo through this aircraft. It's very easy. Up here, we also have different types of rollers, which are able to align these back and forth. Those right there can go back and forth, right and left, back and forth, in all different directions. Right there is one of the tie-down points for the cargo that they hold in here. Another shot heading forward of our aircraft. Tony is now taking a long walk down, and as I'm here, I'll try to show you some other stuff that's exists on our aircraft. I was outside a while ago explaining to you the 7 left door. That is the one that is right there. That is a 7 left service door. There's a 7 right service door, which is right there. They only jump out of the left one because there is lights over there. I'll show them to you. Red and green. Red is obviously wait and green is go. We can turn those on and off by up in the pilot and co-pilot seat. That's to tell them when to get off the aircraft and when to wait before they shouldn't jump for jumping in front of another aircraft. What I'll show you now is another piece of our aircraft equipment, part of the ComNav system. I'm trying to pan up to it at the current time. You can see it right there. That is our PA speaker. It's for our announcements all over the aircraft. We can yell at everybody through those little tubes. So it's actually a speaker, a loudspeaker, LS211. Another part of the show, Tony is heading on up to the flight deck. We'll resume taping up there.
Basically what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to try to give everybody a good view of what everything inside the flight deck area is going to look like after we've run up all of our systems and turned everything on. This gives you kind of a night view of what the cockpit itself looks like when we run up all of our systems. Right now we've got radar up and all of our INSs, and really this plane it looks like a Christmas tree when you've got it up at night because of all the lights and all the indicators and everything that are used on this aircraft. Like I said, it's a wonderful thing to sit down and actually try to learn. There's really a lot to learn on this plane if you'll try to learn. Like Dan was saying earlier, he and I are really trying to focus our attention on learning our job the best we can, but also trying to learn other systems on the plane. I guess what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and turn on all the lights and let everybody see for themselves real clearly what all we have contained on the aircraft. What we're going to do now is we're just going to kind of slowly go around the cockpit area here and kind of let you know what all we have to deal with here. As far as our systems go, starting right here, this is the steering wheel for the plane. After touchdown, the pilot uses this to steer the plane to the spot that he's been commanded to go to. And what they did is they put an interphone wafer right here that while the pilot's steering, all he has to do is take his hand, push the button, and he's on interphone, which comes in real handy. That way he's got hands-on operation. Okay, going on around here, we've got the pilot's yoke. I know it's hard to see, but behind here there's a two-way switch that they use to either talk on our radio systems or interphone amongst the crew. Up here, this is our BDHI selector. Now keep in mind, everything I'm showing you is what we've had to learn about. This is part of our systems. Like I said, the BDHI, this is a selector. This panel goes in coordination with this instrument here. This is your BDHI indicator. You have your marker beacon intensity switch down here.
Why don't you turn that on and show them?
Alright, right here. Okay, there's your marker beacons. What it does is it indicates how far you are from the runway when you start hitting localizer. Okay, now going across through here, this is our ADI indicator. A lot of people refer to this as an artificial horizon. And, you know, again, this is all our equipment. This is our ADI. Gives, you know, your bearing, distance, and heading indications.
That's your HSI.
To where everything you go. What did I say?
ADI. It's an HSI.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is your HSI here. You can change all your course setting, and you can change your heading set. It's relative. It gives a lot of information, and the pilots fly true by it. Up here is your APN 232 CARA system. CARA standing for Combined Altitude Radar Altimeter. It's a real accurate system. I mean, it don't put out much power from the RTs and that go through the antennas, but hey, they fly by it. Go ahead and shut this down.
Why don't on the ADI you push the eyeball, and so we can see how they can land this plane without actually knowing how to land very well.
Copy that. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go through a flight director's test. What it's going to do is it's going to pull up a small ball in the center of the ADI.
Which is this one.
Which, excuse me?
Go on.
Which, when the pilots get in range of the runway, they use this to fly by. Go ahead and punch it up there. It should come around.
And it looks like it's broken.
Well, I guess we found ourselves a job. Well, we'll clarify that with the crew chief and let him write that up in the forms. But anyway, we'll go on around with our presentation regardless. What we're looking at here is the APS 133 color weather radar. This is the control head for it, and this is the indicator that displays numerous types of targets or weather patterns, or anything that you select within the control. It's one of the relatively new systems. Usually they went on the old round scopes. A lot of the C-130s still use that. As a matter of fact, that's what we trained on when we were at tech school. It's a real good system. This happens to me, my favorite part of the airplane. This here is a throttle quadrant. We don't, we really don't mess with this much, but right here is where you punch up the horses. You have independent for each engine, and you can pull these up. You pull back, you go into thrust reverse, forward. You're going off the ground. All right, we're going to scoot on down. I'm going to show you the main area that we have to deal with in our ComNav career field. Right here, since this is a B model, there's differences in the B model and the A model. But with the B model here, this is the AIC-18 control head. This is for interphone, and with this monitor panel up here, you can monitor things such as marker beacon, the DF206 ADF, VHNav, TACAM, things like that. There's really nothing that you can't hear at any possible time on this airplane. All you have to do is flick a switch, you can hear anything you want to. Moving on down here, this is your HSI remote, which I displayed how that worked a minute ago. That moves all your indications up on the indicator as far as heading and bearing goes. This here is your VHF Anarch 186 control head. You can switch this to either station. You can switch it to comm channels or nav channels, or as I displayed earlier, both. And that's VHF. This is a UHF Anarch 164. These are both line of sight radios, relatively good radios, but like I said, we work on all these systems all the time. Coming down here, this is the TACAN ARN 118. It balances out a lot of information that goes along with the indicators up on the display there.
They can get
buck speaker.
On the TACAN, they can get
distance information, how far they are from a point on the ground, basically another airport, so they can have a good reference where they are in the sky. It helps them find their way, basically.
Yep, does a good job of it too. Since we are on a B model, we don't have some of the C-dipper controls that we would if we were on an A model, which would be down in here, but we still have the ELT and the CVR and all the components that would, you know, do the same thing as C-dipper, but, you know, there's a lot different components in the B model, whereas the A model was just one solid component, and to me it seemed a lot simpler than it did with all these different things that you have to hunt down when the airplane goes down. We don't have much to do with these systems, but here you have your INS control heads, INS 1, 2, and 3. This more or less gives, like I said, TACAN and bearing distance information to help line up your indicators up here, and it also works in coordination with the color weather radar. Right here is Dan and I's favorite little toy. A lot of times when we're up on the plane and really aren't caught up in any jobs, this is the Anarch 190 HF system. We can get on this thing and talk to Alaska, Hawaii, Japan, just about anywhere you want to. It's just that you have to be on at the right time of the day. Well, I shouldn't say day, because we have to do it at night. Because what it does is they use different ionospheres. There's different layers that these waves bounce off of. Whereas the VHF and UHF are line of sight radios, these use wave propagation and use the Earth's ionospheres to bounce and skip across the Earth to where different stations or different radios receive those waves. This is a long wave radio. It's a really great radio, and as Dan showed earlier when he was looking at the tail, you have to have a pretty good size antenna, and when you get down to like 2 megahertz on this thing, you have to have a real long antenna, and that's what they use the HF couplers for, to electrically adjust the length of the antenna instead of physically. Going on down here, you have some of the controls that go with color weather radar and antenna select for UHF. You also, what's unique about this plane is you have an observer's seat. In coordination with the pilot and co-pilot, you also have an observer seat here that somebody, like if you have a student pilot, co-pilot, an observer can slide in here, turn his seat around and observe everything that the pilot and co-pilot do to correct any mistakes or errors that they might, you know, do in the course of flight. And this is where he uses his interphone to coordinate with the pilot and co-pilot during flight.
And that's his interphone cord right there.
With the U-94. Well, when I'm speaking of that, the pilot and co-pilot use a simple U-92 because, well, they have their hands in the yoke at all times, hopefully, unless they plan on doing something but that, or they're on autopilot. They have U-92, which gives them control with the switch up on the yoke, or which is our favorite, we use Hot Mic, which enables you hands-free operation of interphone to where you just talk in and everybody can hear you. And as I was saying, that's where the observer uses his. This right here is ADF, automatic direction finding. On this model is the DF206. This is basically an AM radio. You can pick up, well, we pick up a lot of radio stations sometime on it. But as far as experience on the ADF, you know, it don't break that much, and we don't get a lot of experience on it. So, you know, as far as information goes, there's not much to it. Above that, you have your APX 100 for the B model. The IFF stands for Identification Friend or Foe. This sends out a message and interrogates.
Go on. Start from the beginning.
This is the APX 100, as I was saying. The IFF stands for Identification Friend or Foe. What this does is it sends out a message and interrogates another aircraft. And if this aircraft does not have the correct code to respond to this interrogation, well, that right there tells you that you're dealing with somebody that isn't friend. But if you do get a reply from that aircraft, and it tells you the correct code, time of day, and word of day. You've got all kinds of things that go in with this code, so it's not easy to fool the system. Once they correspond and everything checks out good, well, then they know they're flying with friendly neighbors, so you know everything's kosher about that. But you know, if it comes up, interrogation's bad, well, then they know they have a threat and can do something about it. This system here is what they are saying messed up when our F-15 shot down that helicopter. Basically, I don't see how they could, you know, after visual, but hey, who's to argue with the government? And again, over here we have the NARC 164 UHF, NARC 186 VHF, and also we have the controls for interphone for the co-pilot. And I mean, it don't look like a lot, but there's really a lot of information here to learn. And like Dan was telling you, there's so much wire here. Hey, there's a lot of tracing, a lot of work. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go around the rest of the flight deck and let you have a view of what everything else is like.
So we were trying to show earlier on the other ADI, the instrument landing system for the pilots, where it basically guides them down to the runway so they hit on the exact point with the glide slope and localizer. It's basically a cross, and as soon as they got that cross on, they can land. What we'll do here, we'll push it, and you can tell there's the eye. The eye will tell you up and down. Also, these are fly to indicators. The orange ones are fly to indicators. So the pilot, basically all he has to do is get the orange lines, the little eye, and that little white line that's running across all matched up, and he'll hit the end of the runway exactly. It's basically a no-fail system. Pilots are highly trained. I don't even believe they use it. Some of these pilots out here can do incredible things.
What they use that for is, you know, if weather conditions will not allow, will not allow, you know, the crew to see the runway. Which now out in California we have a tendency to have some very serious fog out here. So they sometimes really have to rely on this. All they can do is just look at this little ball, depend on their glide slope, localizer to guide them on the ground, because believe me, the way it gets out here sometimes, it's totally blinded from the ground.
Okay, over here, I mentioned downstairs, Tony can get up on this, I'll try to. These are the jump signals I said were down by the 7 left door. The caution light, which turns on that red light. And then this allows this little bar right here to slide over so they can turn on the jump light. Caution lights basically get ready, jump lights on. These are the control, this is a control head for the INS-3, which we were explaining. It takes a lot of work, and you got to put in, not codes, but INS latitude, longitude. I also wanted to show you the oxygen mask. Pilots are on oxygen mask, say if they get over a certain height or only one pilot is on. What we can do here is we'll flip it to on. I can basically hold the mask on my head real quick here and get a good fresh pure oxygen. I tell you, as a rule out here, although we do not do it, men that come out here with, or troops that come out here after a night of heavy partying, get a hangover, they come over here and they put on the oxygen mask. It gets rid of the hangover relatively quickly, supposedly.
It's a good breath of oxygen. It feels good, it clears the mind, and the pilots need it. The pilots need it when they're flying. And they also have an emergency. In case if they're breathing a little hard, if they turn it to this, which is basically it's permanently on. It does not allow you to exhale. You can exhale, but you got to push it out. But it's constantly forcing pure oxygen down your lungs. It's for better breathing. I tell you, we sit up here some mornings and do that just to wake up.
Flight engineer station. What he does here is he's not necessarily a pilot or even an officer. They take and they need someone to sit at this position and monitor everything that's going on in the aircraft. It's a very important position. What we have here is right here is the hydraulics main system overview. It tells how much fluid level in the hydraulics, what's going on in the hydraulic system. Here is the engine monitor system, where it monitors every engine, what their temperature is, oil pressure, and their RPM. We'll go on up, and these are the APU controls. APU, aircraft power units. They're located in the back. I believe Tony showed you. And they also have fire FSS to pull out in case there's a fire to control. Have here is environmental control for the aircraft. It allows the environment in here basically to stay at a comfortable temperature without any problems. We'll move on over. What we have here is this is the main DC bus. Basically a large voltmeter where it allows you to check the voltage on what's going on in the aircraft for DC power. Right here is the AC side. Now this is an even larger piece, and you can check external power, your AC coming from your external power, your APUs, all four of your engines, and emergency. It has three-phase. Three phases are 115 volts, 400 hertz. Yeah, three-phase. DC is 28 volts, by the way. We'll go on down here. This is the fuel management panel. This is one big, huge fuel gauge. All it is controls to balance out the aircraft, say if it becomes unbalanced. There can only be no more than 8,000 pounds difference. If there's 8,000 pounds difference, you know, the gets a little weak. They've actually had wings fall off because people are not monitoring them correctly and put over 5,000 and it falls off. I believe it's only happened once, or at least that's what's told to me. I have all the fuel gauges. These are for the four main engines, or four main fuel tanks, the auxiliary fuel tanks, here and here, and the extended range. The extended range is exactly what it is, extended range. We have here is the MADAR system. The MADAR system is the basic computer for the aircraft. It has test points all over the aircraft. If something goes wrong with an engine, it shakes too much, RPM spikes, too much oxygen, it turns on. It doesn't turn on, it has to be on. Unfortunately, I can't get it to turn on right now. But it will send all the information, say if there's a problem, directly to here so the flight engineer can try to compensate for the problem, shut down the engine or shut down the APU, etc., whatever there seems to be.
Basically what this is, it's a family doctor.
Exactly, for the aircraft.
If anything on this plane all of a sudden gets sick, this thing comes up and kind of gives you an idea as to what's going on.
I believe I forgot to mention this part also up here, this cabin pressure monitor panel. It's just to monitor the panel. And we'll go straight on up to our FSS. This is our flight fire suppression system. These lights will come on. This is only a test, of course. All these lights come on if there's a fire anywhere. And all they have to do is confirm the fire and push this, and it lets out nitrogen. The nitrogen will basically put out the fire in a couple minutes. It depletes all the oxygen. You can see also with all the lights on how Christmas tree-ish it is. It's pretty nice. Here also is the interphone system for the flight engineer. Everybody has their own little interphone system. Now we will move on to our circuit breaker panels that we have on our aircraft. Flight engineers number 1, flight engineers number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. They're all color coded for different reasons. Green is for
Environmental.
the environmental, yes. And you have the blue is for fuel. I'm trying to remember all of them. Gray, I believe it's...
They really don't make that much sense. It's just they have a basic code that they try to follow.
They're color coded. They're color coded. So if there's a problem anywhere, say in the engines, they know where to look before they have to go do anything else. Now we will pan over to this is the flight navigators. Our systems on this aircraft, if you look down on this panel right here, everything's gone. There's nothing there but an interphone and a little bit of BDHI. Our INSs that we have talked about earlier has basically replaced this person. Up here is our basic circuit breakers for the radios, and etc. We use these the most. Navigator circuit breaker panel number 1, navigator circuit breaker panel number 2. And that's basically it for the navigator. Here is the number 1 escape hatch. If these guys have a problem, they can get out. All they have to do is pop this hatch open. Opens and closes that easy. It's also not a wise thing to open during flight. And they climb up. And there's descent rails here, we'll show you in a second. You climb up and get out. What we have here is the descent rails. They grab a hold of these. There's copper wire. If this copper wire is broken, it has to be turned in, so all these will be checked if they're not defected. It's basically saying these are all safe. They grab these and they jump out of the aircraft, and it lowers them to the ground. We had to watch a module about this, about how it feels like jumping off a desk. I tell you, I wouldn't want to jump off this desk. Just as I'm going to be popping out the number 1 hatch, it's going to be a little bit noisy due to the wind and other engines and APUs going on around us, but we'll just take a basic view. It's dark out, we'll see what we can see. This is a flight, this is their jump out of the, you can see, top of the deck. It's a bit windy up here, I'm sure you can tell. That's why we had our microphones going a bit earlier. We have these huge lights that let us know, huge lights right there that show us the flight line. We try to keep it lit up, basically keep out intruders. Just a back view, you might be able to see the detail in the back right there. It's a nice view, especially during the daytime. The engine and the wings. We'll go back inside, it's too noisy up here.
What we're going to do now, we're going to kind of give you a basic view of the brains of everything that we've showed you up at the cockpit area. This is avionics compartment 1. Right now we're looking at bay 1. We have these numbered in racks. These are called RTs. Well, some of these are just transmitters, some are just receivers, but mainly with all of our systems we have receiver transmitters, abbreviated RTs. I could stand here for hours and tell you, try to explain everything that's here, but I mean, just basics. You have what we showed you, the TAC in. This is your ARN 118. You've got, your basic interphone up here, along with our little U-94 that we've kind of tried to show you all evening. The thing about this plane that is, kind of unique, which most military planes do have, is you have a secure voice. Can't get in too much about what that does because, as you know, secure voice, that sounds like it would be secret, and as you figured, it is, so we can't get into that too much. Down there you have your UHF Anarch 164 RT. It's it right here. And beside it you got your Anarch 186 RT. As Dan remembers, not too long ago we had an opportunity to come out on a job that we worked radar. That job was a very great learning experience. We learned a lot on that job. It had been in the process of working for, I guess, about 3 days, wasn't it, Dan?
It was about 3-day working.
We came out, and I mean, we didn't have any sense of blockage of information in our mind. We were willing to accept any kind of ideas, whereas the people that had been out here for years would not accept it. Dan and I sat back there in the books for about an hour, and we came to the same conclusion that they came to. Some of the stuff that we were dealing with is this radar stabilization relay. We changed that out. We changed this entire INS control system out. After a while, Dan and I came up with the conclusion, and nobody would listen, but after about 3 hours later, they came to the same conclusion, which eventually led to the solving of the problem. Just basically, this is what we call the brains of all of our systems. This, sends all the messages, receives all the messages, and does most of the work for the systems up there.
What we have here also is our VHF nav, our navigational RT. Actually, I believe it's just a receiver. And there's that little black cord around the bottom is for the marker beacon. Only the pilot has the marker beacon. We'll go over here and see if we can locate the co-pilots. It's right back there, right? Let's see, right there it is. It doesn't have the marker beacon. Basically, this is Bay 2. Everything on this is identical to what Tony had just showed you on the number 1 bay.
This just mainly all goes to the co-pilot's instruments. It goes to his radios and everything like that.
And that right there, I wanted to get a little closer up. That's our UHF ARC 164 RT. And it's all broken up into several different pieces. Trying to get a better close-up on it. They can use that inside the building and basically plug in, and it works inside.
While we're going over this, I want you to look at this TACAN. This TACAN is kind of unique. It receives information, but the information that it receives is a digital information. It's processed through this RT. All that information in turn goes to this little MX, what we call an MX adapter. It's a multiplexer adapter. This converts all that digital information into analog information, which is therefore read up on your ADI, your HSI, and you get it up on all of your indicators. INS also coordinates with this to give information to all your indicators also.
Well, that basically takes care of our compartment. This is our number 1 compartment bay. What we'll also show you here is this is our junction box number 1. I'm trying to get a good show of that. We have a lot of junctions, wire junctions inside there that we have to go through and test. There's also relays in there.
This is kind of like a house. I mean, you've got all the circuit breakers, you've got all the relays, and you've got everything just as a regular electrical wiring would be. It's just we put it on the plane just maybe a little bit differently than they would in like companies and things like that, but there is a lot of electrical systems on this plane.
That was junction box number 2, and this is number 3. I can't get a good shot on it, but here they are. We'll go back down into compartment number 2, bay 3.
Okay, this right here, this little dude here is kind of a neat little system. What this does is, earlier when Dan was showing you the MADAR system up on the flight engineer's compartment there, this records all information that is run through that system. I mean, it's hard to see how this could, store that much memory, but if anything happens during the flight, this thing logs basically the whole flight. When the flight is discontinued, they've landed and the crew has departed, what they do is they take this information from this and they download into the computers inside, and it basically gives information on everything that happened during the flight. Over here we have our mode 4 computer that works in with IFF, and if you'll come around over here, basically this is bay 4, and you have your PA and your interphone hookups, which I'm sure we'll go around and give you a good view at what that looks like.
Before we go back there though, this is one side of the hallway. The other side of the hallway is the important part for the flying crew. Very important. We have here, get the lights turned on. These are the sleeping quarters. There is 3 beds in here, and if you notice, there is also oxygen masks available for them when they sleep. Imagine sleeping with oxygen, what dreams you would have. And that's one of them. That's actually number 2. We'll walk up here, and here's 3. So as you can tell, we can fit 6 crew members in bed while the plane is in flight. Now we'll go back and we'll check out other parts of the aircraft on the flight deck area.
So this is the relief crew section of the plane. This is basically where the crew can come back. They can sit down, at the table, sit down and eat their MREs, which are, by the way, pretty good. MREs, drink their coffee and things of that. Back here is a very important part to the maintenance section of the plane. This is where all the TOs, technical orders, are kept. This gives us all our information to all our maintenance procedures that we have to use, and these are very important. If we're caught without these, well, we can say goodbye to our job. because if anything happens on this aircraft and it happens without the proper procedures, we can get into some serious trouble. As you can see, there's numerous amounts of TOs that go back through there.
Plus also that's not the end of the TOs. It goes all the way back down to, there's 40 there. And I think it goes all the way up to 50, as you can tell, right down underneath there. There's 50 books for this plane.
Each of these books, from what I understand, are worth about $150 to $200. So you're looking at a lot of money just in information material alone. Okay, what we're going to do now, we'll go ahead and go back to the crew galley. Oh, okay. While we're at it, I was going to show you the better view of that interphone. This is that interphone control head that I was showing you at Bay 4. And this is the PA system that I was going to show. Then of course inside here you've got your 94 interphone cord hooked up, which take this cap off right here, and you've also got interphone and you, like we were saying, you've got access to communication all over this plane. That's why us being communication navigation specialists are so important in this plane. Without us, it wouldn't work. All right, we'll go and show you the rest of the plane. Okay, we have a relief area here, I would call it. This is the C-5 little latrine area here. Nothing fancy, but you know, the hours that they put in on some of these flights, well, they have to have some kind of means of relief on this thing, whereas fighters and small planes of such, you know, don't have anything like this, but really they don't have the room, but believe me, we got plenty of it.
This is almost the size of my bathroom at my house. I wish my house was the size of a C-5 because I wouldn't be so crowded.
Okay, I'm going to turn on some lights up here. Alright, this is the crew galley.
Oops.
This is basically where they make their coffee. They store all their food in their refrigerator, keep all little handy things around. This is a very serious part of the plane because officers, when they come up on the plane, the first thing they look for is coffee. No coffee, they can't take the plane. It's totally inop. It's not satisfactory. Alright, now we're going to...
Crew galley also has a sink here. You can wash your hands. It's drinkable water. So we'll also show you, this is the number 2 escape hatch. This is like this other one that we saw before. That's up number 1. This one opens up also, there's a ladder. And this big thing is a life raft. 25-man USF, gross weight, I don't even see a gross weight. Gross weight is heavy. I'll tell you, if you're in the middle of the ocean, you're going to want to be on it.
This here is the courier compartment. As you can see, there's the size of the door that for that escape hatch there that Dan just showed you. I mean service door, number 5.
That was number 2.
Number 2.
Emergency door.
Yeah.
Emergency. Emergency.
Well,
it's getting late.
We're getting kind of a little treat tonight.
AC control panel. Our batteries are running a little low, so we're going to make it real quick. The ending of our tape. Let's take a quick shot. Try to get a shot all the way up the hallway of the. Oh, yeah, that was a troop compartment. This is the flight deck. This is how long it is. I'm not all the way to my back. We'll be back. Compartment. It holds 75 people up here on the troop compartment, and as you can tell, it's relatively large. In the back here, we have 2 latrines. We would show it to you, but we're running low on batteries. We want to hurry up. There's the 2 bathrooms, 75 guys, oxygen mask, and has its own PA and interphone system. What we have here is our galley for so they can cook the meals during the flights. And our last shot here is our negative pressure doors that open up back, if you can see, into the empennage, which head up to the tail. We showed you that part earlier in the other clip of the film. That basically concludes everything of our C-5 expedition here. So, hope you have enjoyed it, friends and family and all. Tony and I, we basically say thanks a lot.